Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I'm Lisa Murray, the Outreach Manager here at the Harris Center. We're so grateful to all of you who have given or pledged so generously to the 50th Anniversary Fund, which is, as of today, at a grand total of $866,628 from 289 donors. And the fund is already hard at work, which you'll all soon see and hear more about. Now I'd like to turn it over to our Executive Director, Jeremy Wilson.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. And welcome everyone to this update on the 50th Fund activities. It's great to see so many generous donors out there, and there were many more that registered, but it's tricky to get people to come. So I'm sure they'll see the recording as well. I'm just going to share a screen and get started on a slideshow to give you a little sense for tonight. All right. Well, again, thank you to all of our generous donors that made the 50th Fund such a success. As you might remember, the fund was oriented towards launching the Harris Center into its second half century or second 50 years, and really focused on raising money to bring some innovative additions to our education programs, growing our conservation research focus area within the Harris Center, and finally really helping us to steward our managed lands, which has become far more complicated with the incredible use that we get today since the COVID pandemic started, and secondly, because of the really extreme climate events that we're facing in terms of both forest and trail maintenance. Tonight, we're going to hear about 7 projects that the fund has already funded, and are either, some of them are complete, some of them are in progress, and some of them are just getting started. So we'll have a whole range of different levels of start there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susie, and she's going to be talking turtles.
Hi, everybody. Oh, baby turtles, aren't they so cute? Don't they pull at your heartstrings? That's exactly what we're kind of banking on, is that kids, well, and grown-ups, find turtle hatchlings kind of irresistible. And we're hoping to make that deep heart connection and true life conservation experience with a project that puts kids in 3rd and 4th grade and middle and high school in the role of caretakers to these tiny hatchlings as a way to teach them about turtle ecology and conservation. Using a really fabulous program that was already developed by Zoo New England, we are going to be head starting some baby turtles. And actually tomorrow I'm picking up 24 newly hatched painted turtles, and they will be finding some homes in carefully selected schools in Jaffrey Ridge and the Conval school districts for this year as part of our pilot program. Students will care and tend for the newborn turtles from September through May, feeding them, taking care of their tank, keeping them healthy, conducting measurement and weight surveys, observing behavior. And this project gives the baby turtles a chance to get head started. That's why we call it a head starting project in their life. It gives them an opportunity to be free of predators and other environmental dangers. This gives them safe passage through a most vulnerable time in their life when they are just so tiny and edible by many predators. And we are really excited this year to bring this program in person with wild turtles, to give our students a chance to do real conservation work and make a difference. We are grateful for the 50th Fund in making this possible, and I'm 100% sure that this program will make an impact on all the kids and the teachers and their parents who will be the turtle tenders this year. Just one thing to add is the turtles that we're raising will be re-released back into the wild from the spot that they were collected. So that's the Turtle Head Starting Project, and it's now really my pleasure to introduce Phil Brown, the Harris Center's Pac-Monadnock Raptor Observatory Coordinator. He's going to talk about a sensational project we have about broadwing hawks.
So I'm Phil Brown. I'm the Hawk Watch coordinator at the Harris Center. I'm here to talk about the Broad-winged hawk project. So many of us are familiar with the broad-winged hawk migration as they make their amazing migrations over Pac-Monadnock Raptor Observatory each fall and over the skies of our region. On a big day in mid-September, observers can witness hundreds circling overhead at one time, sometimes even thousands. But far less is known about this deep woodland nesting species, the breeding habits of the species. And the New England population has long been a mystery to raptor researchers. So in 2020, the Harris Center initiated a partnership with Hawk Sanctuary in Pennsylvania, a world famous raptor research and institution, to learn about the species movements during migration and in the wintering months. This common raptor of our region has shown signs of decline, both globally and regionally. Hawk Mountain researchers thought that New England's birds might hold some of the secrets to better conserving this species, which appears to still be common in the heavily forested Monadnock region. So the 2020 season turned out to be a bust in a way due to COVID and put the brakes on the planned efforts to trap the birds and affix transmitters to our New England nesting birds, but it proved to be an important pilot season for the Harris Center staff and volunteers. So in spring of 2021, we hit the ground running with myself and about 20 volunteers covering many of the Harris Center's properties in search of nests. Searching thousands of acres of woodlands for stick nests, watching hawk behavior, and following other signs, our team ultimately tracked down 9 active nests, including 4 on Harris Center properties. When Hawk Mountain researchers Dr. Lori Goodrich and Rebecca McCabe arrived in the Monadnock region in late June of this year, our nest monitoring efforts paid off. We trapped and banded 5 adult birds, affixing GPS and cellular transmitters to 3 of these birds, Thelma, Monadnock, and Harris, aptly named. Several key volunteers and partners, including National Audubon, were involved in the tagging effort, which instead of attracting the adult birds to a mechanical owl set up below nesting sites. Next slide. Thanks to these new technologies, researchers, as well as the general public, will have access to movement maps of the broad-winged hawk. We have already learned a lot about local birds, Harris, a male from the Hiroshi property, marked in blue dots and lines, and Monadnock, a female from a Dublin nest, which has the orange dots. Unfortunately, we haven't had any signals from Thelma yet. She's the female, which was tagged along Willard Pond Road on Harris Center lands. Though Monadnock looked pretty comfortable in a small geographic area during the nesting season, post-breeding transmitter signals have shown that she actually flew north to within 2 kilometers of the Canada border in the past couple of weeks. Ultimately, we hope to learn about how broad-winged hawks move across the landscape on a global scale too. The map depicted here shows where several broad-winged hawks banded near Hawk Mountain in Pennsylvania have migrated to and wintered in South America in the Amazon basin. We hope to learn where our birds are going too, and what steps we can take to better conserve them across their full life cycles. Stay tuned to live migration maps. I think Brett may have just posted a link to that. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Lisa.
Great. Thank you, Phil. I'm going to talk about this Nature Almanac and Perpetual Calendar. It was created by Francie von Mertens, the popular Monadnock Ledger backyard birder columnist for 25 years and a Harris Center honorary trustee. She generously gifted this labor of love to the Harris Center as a complete and finished product, content through copy editing, through design. It was an incredible gift. And through the 50th Fund, we were able to cover the printing costs to bring this almanac into the world as an environmental educational tool for the general public, as well as to use within classrooms. Each page or day provides educational text and a beautiful photo that deepen environmental knowledge, particularly about New Hampshire's natural world and wildlife. It inspires appreciation and curiosity about nature. People say how much they look forward to turning the page each day. They really seem to love this way of learning about the natural world around them. This calendar also enables the Harris Center to expand its reach beyond those who attend our programs or who are in our schools where we teach. So it serves as a powerful outreach tool as well as a highly valued educational tool. The almanac was printed and ready for sale around the first week in November of last year, 2020. And we've already recouped well more than 90% of the financial outlay, which was made possible by the 50th Fund. And now that the Christmas season is upon us, we've no doubt that we'll easily begin to turn a profit on sales, which is even better. Needless to say, this project is a big success in many ways. We sell the almanacs through telephone sales, thanks to Miles, or at the Toadstool bookstores or at Steele's. It's also posted on our website and social media. And here are some testimonials in customers' own words. I love this calendar and that I can use it year after year. I'm buying a bunch to give for birthday presents. There's so much great information packed into this almanac. It's so much fun to turn the page and see what I'm going to learn about today. I got the almanac yesterday and sat down to look at it and read it straight through. I've had a number of people who have told me that. So, and on and on. We're told time and time again what a quality item this is and how people appreciate it. It was a great first venture into exploring the world of publications. And because here it is in the flesh, because this is a perpetual calendar, we can sell it year round, year after year. It's the gift that literally keeps giving and educating and inspiring day in and day out. So that is our perpetual almanac. And now I'll turn it over to our science director, Brett Amy Thielen.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am really excited to share with you another project focused on migration. So the project Phil talked about, the broad-winged hawk tracking project, is incredible in the level of detail it can provide about the movements of those birds. But there's one limitation in that the transmitters that we use for projects like that are too heavy to be put on smaller birds and smaller flying animals. So there's a whole different network, research network that exists that looks at these smaller birds, such as shorebirds and songbirds and even saw-whet owls, and in some cases, even bats and monarch butterflies. And it's a research network called MODUS. That's not short for anything. It's just the Latin word for movement, M-O-T-U-S. And it's comprised of a network of really small radio transmitters, nanotags. This is a diagram showing what they might look like on piping plover, common nighthawk, and some other birds. And then a network of receiving stations or antennas. And whenever a tagged animal flies within range of one of these antennas, it detects the radio signals and records that information about that animal flying by. So you can kind of think of it like an easy pass for birds. And it's a really exciting new technology and new network that's revealing intimate details about everything from flight paths and flight speed to the behavior of birds during migration. And one of the things that's so exciting about it is that many of these receiving stations are powered by solar panels and transmit data via cell signals. So the information shows up on the MODUS website within days of a tagged bird flying by. So this picture, and I also should say that up until very recently, this network was focused mostly on coastlines. And so it was really great at detecting coastal migrations, but there weren't very many of these receiving stations inland. And that's where we come in and where you come in. There's a new project in New England called New England MODUS with a goal of putting up 50 receiving stations in east-west orientations, they're calling them fence lines, across interior New England over the next few years. The idea being that if any tagged animal is flying north-south across western New Hampshire or Vermont or western Maine or Connecticut, that it should pass by one or more lines of these receiving stations and get detected. And so the more tags that are out there and the more receiving stations that are out there, the more information that there is, and patterns begin to emerge. So this is our receiving station, which is on our Granite Lake Headwaters property in Stoddard. This is what you made possible, was the funding of this station. We installed it last November. And now I'm going to do a little screen share switch so that I can show you how to find information from this very station on your own anytime you'd like, because it's right out there on the internet for us all to check out. just for a moment. And you can see here, this is the MODIS website, modis.org. We have a direct link to this from the Harris Center website too, which I can put into the chat. And any of you who are the least bit nerdy about birds or science like me could spend hours on this website combing through all kinds of amazing stories that this data tells. But one thing I'm going to show you tonight is how to look at the map of receiving stations and find ours. So under Explore Data, Receiving Stations, this will show you the map of all of the MODIS stations that are currently active. There are more than 1,200 of them on 4 continents. It's taking a minute to load. And you can zoom in to find our station in Stoddard. There we go. So there's a lot of stuff on here that isn't that interesting about how this is working. But the thing that is interesting, all right, tags detected. This is what we're looking for. So we've been waiting patiently or impatiently for the first tagged animal to fly by our station, and it happened this July. And you can see when you click on this, eventually this will have many different animals listed, hopefully. But right now it has the one, and this is a semi-palmated plover. It flew past our station on July 30th. And here's what's really cool is that you can click on that tag and then it'll show you all the other places that that bird flew by. So, and you can look at it in a table where you can see all of these spots, or in a map, which is the really cool part, I think, because it shows where it went first. So this bird, amazingly, was tagged on its breeding grounds in Churchill, Manitoba on Hudson Bay, all the way up here. That's, I think, this little dot right here. A month later, it showed up in Stoddard. And the very next day, it was detected by a station at the northeast end of the Bay of Fundy, 400 miles away, where it has been detected 21 different times since then, as recently as August 25th, which I think is this last one here near Prince Edward Island. So hopefully in a few weeks, if you come back and look at this, we might see this bird now moving further south. We might see it detected on mid-Atlantic coast, or then eventually all the way down in French Guiana and Suriname, where it will overwinter. But you can see, so there's been 29,000 tags deployed as part of this network, and there are 1,200 receiving stations. And so there's myriad stories that when pieced together create really important data about how birds and bats and butterflies are moving across the landscape, how long they're staying in various places, which habitats are important for them. It's just a treasure trove of amazing information. And I love that it's connected to this spot. That bird flew by that spot and we know it. And any of us can go on this website and check it out. And not just that bird, but any of the other animals that have been tagged. They all have stories to tell, and this network is really helping us tell them. So I'm sure that I have talked far too long, but I'm really excited about this project, and I encourage you to check it out. And I'll put a link to the place where you can directly link right to our station in the chat. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and I'm turning it over to Jenna, our school program manager, Jenna Spear.
Thank you, Brett. That was so interesting. So I am here to talk about the 50th Fund had money that was, we used money for something called the ROOT project, which stands for Removing Obstacles to Outdoor Teaching. And this money from the 50th funded Harris Center teacher naturalists to work over the summer of 2020. So that was, it was over a year ago, to create resources to help classroom teachers move their class routines outdoors when students returned to school in the fall of 2020. We knew that using outdoor learning spaces for as much of the school day as possible would have a reduced risk of virus transmission for students and teachers, while also provide a positive mental health and academic learning benefit. This photo here, you see several students doing some outdoor nature journaling. Our Harris Center teacher naturalists worked with over 300 teachers from all of our partner districts in online workshops. This was in late August, right before school started in the fall of 2020. And what our goal was to build teachers' skills and confidence with outdoor physically distanced teaching. After the workshops were complete, our teacher naturalists then created K-8 nature journaling teaching resources, which you see here on the website. And this was based on blending exploration of place with literacy, science, and social development goals. All things that are normally important, but were extra important after all the isolation of the spring of 2020. These resources, as you can see, are now available to educators on our teacher resource section of the Harris Center website. So you can see we have a bunch of different resources there. This is one example, just the getting started with my class. So this helps teachers start a nature journaling practice with their classes. And this is just a portion of the page. There's many, many more resources on the Harris Center website that are available to anyone who would like to visit it. So anybody at all, you could share this with relatives in any part of the country. It's there for everyone. So teachers who participated in these workshops shared photos of their classes outdoors, like the one you saw a few minutes ago, with us, as well as some of their nature journal pages. So this one was shared with us by a teacher in the Conval district and shows some of the nature journal pages that her students produced. So you can see that she had them sketching and labeling. She had them describing what things look like, beaver bits, you know, what they look like, all of these different things that they were spending time outside looking at. This next one was shared with us by Tina Peralt. She's another teacher in the Conval district, and she wrote this when I asked her to describe this nature journal page. She says, I was able to adapt many of the Harris Center journal prompts from the workshops we attended with you. When we noticed something new that might be interesting, I created my own prompts using ideas from the Harris Center website. And this one at the very bottom, just to translate for all of you who probably aren't used to reading kid writing, it says, I saw a deer track. The student drew what is a hemlock tree up above and the deer tracks walking along the ground there. The yellow splotch, yes, is some deer urine. So they were able to really figure this out. And with this kind of experience, students are able to spend more time outside, which we all know is great for them regardless of COVID, but also allows them to stay healthier in the face of COVID. We are so grateful to the 50th Fund for allowing us to work with so very many teachers as we got back into school last fall and help to bring them the confidence that they desired in their own outdoor teaching practice. So thank you so much to all the donors who helped this happen. And with that, I am pleased to introduce our next presenter, Robert Goodby. Bob is a professor of anthropology at Franklin Pierce University. He earned his PhD in anthropology from Brown University. He has over 30 years of experience excavating Native American archaeological sites in New England, and we have been pleased to welcome Bob as a speaker at the Harris Center on several occasions, most recently at our supporter event this past May. Bob is going to tell you about an exciting 50th Fund collaborative project that he is at the center of. So take it away, Bob.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction. So yeah, I have been doing archaeology in the Monadnock region for the past 20 years now in my capacity as a professor at Franklin Pierce. And during that time, I've done a lot of talks in the region. I like bringing my work to the public. And just by happy coincidence, this past year during the worst of COVID, I was also on sabbatical. And my sabbatical project was to produce a book about my work. And I drew the inspiration from talks that I do for New Hampshire Humanities, some of which I've done in conjunction with the Harris Center. And the idea of those talks is to take scientific research or research in the humanities and bring it to public audiences to interpret it in a way that's engaging and that shares that knowledge. And so that is what I did. I wrote a book that is meant to be accessible, intended for people across New Hampshire from all different backgrounds. And it talks about the work I've done as an example of the depth and the complexity of Native American history here. It is also the first book of its kind in that we've never had a book written about the native people of this region, either their history or what some people call their prehistory. And so this really fills a void, and I'm very happy to have been able to do it. Now, I've done a lot of academic articles, but this was my first book. And when I got into it, I discovered that the publishing landscape is not what it used to be. Rather than coming up with a book and assuming you'll find a publisher who will just publish it and put it out there, these days, publishing companies want you to come to your project with financial backing. And so when I had a draft of the book and discovered that was the reality, I began looking around, and I immediately thought of two of the partners I've had over the past 20 years, two of the leading nonprofits in the region. So I reached out to the Harris Center and to the Historical Society of Cheshire County. And thanks to the generosity of the 50th Fund and the Historical Society, was able to get this book done. Okay, next slide, please. So just a brief intro. The book is an overview of my archaeological work in this area. Begins with an introduction that starts at Bellows Falls, and you can see the rock carvings down in the lower right-hand corner, and then moves on to a chapter that asks the question, who are the native people here? Because most of us don't really know much about that. We have the vague idea they were organized into tribes, but I talk about their ethnicity, their identity, who they were linguistically, things of that sort. And then I move into a chapter called Opening the Puzzle, in which I talk about what it is like to do this kind of research in this area, what our sites are like, where they're located, how we find them, what are the things that we actually discover when we're digging, and what are the things that are missing? What are some of the challenges that we face there? And so I'm introducing the reader to the stuff of archaeology and the data we use. And then I move to look at 4 sites in great detail as examples of the incredible nature of this Native American history here. The first one I look at is the Swansea Fish Dam site. This is a stone dam in the Ashwillet River, one of the only documented large stone structures built by Native people in this part of the world. And we were able to show that it was first built 4,000 years ago and continued in use until the Europeans got here, used to trap and harvest migratory fish. I then look at a small site in Peterborough, the Raft Bridge site, where people camped on a small knoll and used the resources of wetlands, streams, as an example of a sort of typical day-to-day site, and asking the question of not only how did they use that part of the landscape, but how did that site fit in with other sites that they occupied and where those sites might be. Then move to the Wentasticket Mountain site in Hinsdale, right on the banks of the Connecticut River. And as you can see from this slide, it's actively eroding. There's very little of it left. But this was a deeply buried site where we had layer upon layer of artifacts going from about 700 years ago to over 5,000 years ago. And in every single layer of this site, we found burned rattlesnake bone, because the Native people were going up to the top of Wentasticket, harvesting these animals and bringing them down. And then the fourth site we looked at is really one of the most spectacular in the region. It's the Tennant Swamp Paleo-Indian site that was discovered when they built the new Keene Middle School, where we had the well-outlined remains of 4 houses radiocarbon dated to 12,600 years before present, the oldest site in all of New England. Okay, the next slide, please. Now that takes us through the archaeology. And for a lot of people, if they think about Native Americans, they're somehow tucked in the past and they get to a point where they're no longer a part of history. But this book takes the Native people all the way up to the present, and it concludes with the story of Abenaki survival, looking at the remarkable Setakis family in Keene, a family of Abenaki Indians who returned to this area from Quebec in the late 19th century, and then takes it up through the renaissance of Abenaki culture in the last 20 years or so, looking at traditions like basket making, which have had a real revival in this area, and concluding the book where it started, at Bellows Falls, and bringing it up to the present and talking about this not just as a historical culture, but one that is ongoing and whose story is still being told. Now, the status of the book. And this is a fun one to do. So this is what the cover of the book looks like. We have an illustration done from the Keene Paleo-Indian site by Miranda Nelkin and Rex Barker. Miranda's one of the teachers at the middle school who's worked with me on this project. And you can see on the back cover here, we got some wonderful supportive quotes from some very distinguished people. Joseph Bruchac is a nationally renowned Native American author. Siobhan Senior is a great scholar of Native American literature at UNH. And the book has been written, the book has been edited, the book has been sent off to the printers, and at 2:07 this afternoon, the books arrived in Keene, New Hampshire, 2,000 of them, okay, ready to be distributed. So that was just a happy coincidence, but we are very much ready to go with these, and I'm looking forward to what people think about them. Okay, so the next task here is marketing this book, and we are having an official book launch. We go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. Having an official book launch on Indigenous Peoples Day, October 11th. Used to be some other holiday, but this is going to be at the Historical Society in Keene. We already have 50 people signed up for this event, including many members of the Native community. Many Abenaki people are going to be at this event to celebrate it. So we're really looking forward to that. And then between libraries and bookstores for the next 2 months after the launch, I have got already more than 24 events scheduled in 4 New England states, different kinds of book presentations and brief talks and things of that sort. There's going to be a statewide talk on October 15th, hosted by New Hampshire Humanities to talk about the book. And I'm very excited about the response that it is getting. We have already, without having done any really serious publicity, we haven't sent out the press releases, there hasn't been anything in the local papers yet, and we have already sold more than 200 copies of the book, okay, to individuals and to bookstores and to libraries. And so I'm very optimistic that when the real publicity starts around the book launch event, that this is going to be successful. So I'm very excited about that. Again, I want to thank the 50th Fund, because without that, I would not have been able to hold that book up and talk about it like this. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Margaret Baker.
Thank you very much, Bob. I can't wait to get that book. I'm part of a small grounds accessibility committee that was formed this past May. And one of our goals is to make a few areas on the Harris Center grounds itself accessible to people who use wheelchairs or walkers, or who have mobility challenges in general. Because we realize that just about every destination on our grounds requires navigating stairs or steps or steep inclines. We also took a closer look at our building from an accessibility point of view and found a few areas of concern as well. The first one is getting into the building. Without an automatic door opener, a person with mobility challenges either simply cannot get in unassisted, or will have a difficult time opening first the heavy outside door and then the heavy inside door. So we are installing automatic door openers in those 2 spots to address this very issue. Then the handicapped accessible bathroom might have grab bars around the toilet, which is really helpful. But again, it is difficult or impossible for a mobility challenged person to get in or out of the bathroom without assistance. So again, we are installing an automatic door opener there to allow people both dignity and accessibility. Going outdoors, we targeted getting into the large patio overlooking the pollinator garden as an area to make accessible. To this end, we're planning to build a ramp from the parking lot to the small square patio, and then down to the larger patio, where the flowers in the pollinator garden can be enjoyed. Getting onto the small square patio also allows for an excellent birdability viewing spot. Viewing spot. You'll be hearing more about birdability in upcoming communications and events, so be on the lookout for that. Finally, we're targeting increasing accessibility from the small patio down to the frog pond area. This will allow people to enjoy this lovely spot and to attend events that take place there. To this end, we'll be creating a landing area toward the top of this area and a hard-packed gravel ramp down to the lower level that has a gentle grade and is safe. We've been working with an American Disabilities Act consultant to design an ADA compliant plan, and we'll be working on its implementation with the help of volunteer crews. So if anyone is interested in learning more about how you can be part of that volunteer effort, please contact Lisa in the chat or call the Harris Center office, because we would love the help. And now I'm going to turn it over to Susie, who I think has made a big wild discovery in the woods.
Wow, what is this? I don't know if people have been out hiking, but if you hike up the Harris-Scat Trail, the Harris Center Trail up Skatutikee, you'll see some great carvings by Jack Magruder, who's here, I think tonight, maybe, and just a shout out to him. But I'm actually here to tell you, first of all, thank you all for supporting the 50th Fund. As you can hear, we have some exciting projects that we're already in, but I'm going to tell you about 2 projects that are on the horizon for the future. And the first one is a project that we did a while ago through a grant through the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. And it was a after school program and weekend programming with the Keene Kids Collaborative Program out of Keene. And it's a program that works with enrichment opportunities for children that live in the Keene Housing Authority apartments. And we just loved this program because it really brought our high quality, nature-based, place-based programming to kids that don't get to come out to the Harris Center that often, probably haven't had an opportunity to come to our camps or participate in many of our family-oriented programs. So we're really looking forward to starting this project up again and hopefully even expanding out of Keene towards Peterborough and getting more kids and families involved in Harris Center opportunities, taking down any barriers to getting here or being able to pay for programming. So that's something to look forward to. And the other thing to look forward to is the return of the Young Birders Club. This is a club that's really geared towards teens, and it's building on the success of partnering with our local teen groups like the Avenue A Center through the Grapevine. This is a project or a club that we've had in the past. It was really successful. Henry Walters and Cynthia Nichols really started it, but they moved on and it ended about 5 years ago. And Phil Brown and I and some other local birders and people interested in working with teens are going to revive this, get it going again, and get teens working on birding and being outside, connecting with kind of intergenerational opportunities. And I like to just take a minute and think of people like Mead Keddo and Phil Brown and Eric Masterson, who are incredible birders. And when they've talked about their experiences, they really got into it when they were young, and it made them lifelong conservationists. And that is also a hope that we can get teens involved and get them so excited that they stay forever connected to the outdoors. So those are 2 projects to look forward to. And now I'd like to turn it back to Jeremy, who's going to talk a little bit about some other things. Jeremy.
Great. Thanks, Susie. And thanks to all those presenters. Those are really exciting projects. As you can see that we haven't been quiet around the Harris Center, even in a pandemic year. Things are busier than ever. So thanks to all the people working on these projects, but most especially this evening, thanks to all of you for your generosity in making the 50th Fund a reality and able to fund these really innovative and fascinating projects to really launch the Harris Center's second 50 years. Pretty exciting. So over the past year, roughly, we've been working on a new strategic plan. It was time for us to develop a plan. Usually these things are 5-year plans or 3-year plans. And we had just finished up the end of our 50th year, a 5-year plan. And it was time for us to develop a new plan going forward, which fits well within the sense of launching a new half century. And so at the annual meeting this year in October, one of the things we'll be doing is presenting in a little bit of detail, not too much, but in a little bit of detail, the new strategic plan. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a hint of what's coming up on that for tuning in tonight. So this new effort really recognizes that the organization has 3 strategic priorities. And these are embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of its different facets, enhancing our digital communications, and educating about climate change. So those are 3 things that are going to be going on throughout the organization and almost everything that we do. And then we have 4 programmatic areas that we really see some growth in the near future in. And these include cultivating our conservation research area, really building upon these great citizen science projects we have going, these great conservation research projects like the PAC Raptor Observatory, and building more of those out of all these slides. So building on our conservation research area, enhancing our stewardship of our managed lands throughout the region. So this involves lots of work on trails, both in terms of accessibility, but also in terms of resilience to some of these dramatic climate events that we've been experiencing. I don't know how many of you look back on July and recognized what happened here, but this region, there was a lot of variation in this, but this region got 25 inches of rain in July. And most of that rain came in events that were 2 inches or 3 inches. And that's an event that used to be a really rare thing, but now we're getting multiple ones of those a summer. And it really has an impact on how we manage our roads, how we manage our culverts, how we manage our trails. And so this is a big strategic look ahead, is thinking about that land stewardship. Another area programmatic area that we're building is really thinking about and building upon our professional development for local teachers. So Jenna talked about professional development opportunities. And in fact, this summer we ran a professional development summer camp for teachers. So not a Wolf's Nest camp for kids, but a summer camp for teachers to really act as a retreat and get them into a new mindset of how to get their kids outside and exploring the region. And then finally, we're really trying to expand both demographically and across our area. Lots of our reach to different age groups, particularly teens, also 20 and 30-year-olds, but also reaching, sort of increasing the awareness of the Harris Center in places like Keene and in places like Jaffrey and Ridge. So 4 big programmatic growth areas, 3 strategic priorities, and a pretty exciting plan going forward. But we'll hear much more about that at the annual meeting with more details. And one thing that's clear is that the 50th Fund is really going to be essential to allowing for some of this growth and some of these allowing us to really make progress on some of these goals and objectives for the future. So it is with great thanks that I thank all of you for your incredible generosity in allowing us to have a fund like this that just allows the innovation of our staff and board to really shine. And create an organization that we'll all be proud of in the future. So thank you very much. And with that, I think we'll end this evening, and hopefully we'll see you all at the annual meeting.